Okay, so here we are in Mr. President, and we're almost winding down to the very end of the campaign here. Nelson Fisher, the Republican vice presidential candidate, finished doing advertising. She ran off in the South and the East, and laid down some cards, pillaging a lot of the cards that were out, and dropping Gil Stevens down to one card. Now he's got to look at that one card and try to figure out how can I best get rid of this, because if I get rid of it, the cards there, they'll get one shot to get rid of their cards, but they'll all go in the undecided voter stack. But here's the problem. He's behind on debates. He would love to get a debate and tie that up at least. He's not really showing a commanding lead in states. He may have a couple of additional ones, but if he could get control of the undecided voter stack, or at least neutralize it mostly, he'd feel a lot more comfortable with the leads he has in some of those big states. He wants to concentrate only in the smaller states at this point, thinking that he's got, and in the battleground in the Midwest, thinking that he's got these tied up, not so much on votes, but on perception. He's seeing the Democrats unwilling to touch where he looks like he has a lead. All right, well, we'll start that and hope, and we may see the end of the turn here, because if he blunders, he loses this card too. And so, unless he gets a special roll, and a special roll is indeed what he got doubles. He doesn't have the cards to debate. That's the problem. Again, one of those, hey, what do you do in this case? My judgment on this is he doesn't have to risk all his cards. He's going to be ending the turn on this, but he wants to win a debate so badly. His best location is to put it here. And he's going to be running up against Allenby. He can't use foreign policy, but he can use urban renewal or a balanced budget. And he'll do an urban renewal debate against Allenby. Allenby's only got 3. Whereas Stevens also only has 3. Okay. He wants to win this real bad, though. He's going to need a 5 through 9. Now, and he gets 2 shots at it. Allenby wants to look at his choices. He has to put up at least 2 cards. And he may want to put more, he may not. Hard call here. His big vote cards, he doesn't want to challenge there. He's got a lot of good cards, though. Rhode Island. He's afraid to play these because they could swing things. New Jersey, North Carolina, Minnesota he doesn't have yet, Washington. Okay, so he's going to go in Washington and Rhode Island, and that's it. He's going to hold the rest of the cards in the hope of being able to play a decent number of them. But the game's essentially over. There's going to be one more turnaround. All right, let's see what Stevens gets. He needs a 5 or 9, but he has 2 shots at it. He doesn't get it. We swing over to Allenby. He gets a victory, and then over to Stevens. He gets a victory. It's a tied. It ends up a wash. Now, if this was going to be a continuing game, if we were early on, urban renewal can still be voted. But in this case, it's unlikely that we'll see another debate on that. Let's take a look at what we want to do here. Stevens, he wants to mark that Maryland card, especially this late in the game. And I believe the Democrats also do. Washington. And then over here, the red card for Rhode Island, which I think they also need to mark. I don't remember if that was president or vice president. I can peek. That's a presidential card. Okay. Well, we're not done quite yet. Everybody gets 1 turn. But that's pretty much the end of the game there. We'll see what happens. Fisher got another advertising chance with the doubles. Now, he could have done other things with it, but advertising seemed the most valuable. He could have tried another debate, but his odds are low against this better character. So, instead, he threw quite a bit of money in here. I forgot to count it, didn't I? It was 2, 4. I think he spent about $7. He's got some left. Now these are going to have to be replenished, but he threw a number of votes in, some of them marked, some of them just filling up additional voting power. Things like Missouri, he already had votes there, so he didn't want to mark it. But now it's got to be replenished, and oh jeez, I forgot how many cards he put in. Yeah, he put all 5 in, nothing went back. So he doesn't have to pick, and we'll go around. And again, a little bit of a fuzzy thing in the rules. Do we just skip him, or does his running mate have to fill? I don't know. I'm gonna just skip him, but we'll see what some of the cards are gonna have to go back. Okay, more advertising done. Doubles roll kind of didn't pan out that well. They spent only $2. They got 4 left. That doesn't matter. I'm not going to erase it and do it. No point to it at this point. They put a couple of votes into the South, one of which kind of matters. The Alabama one gives them a new location, but Arkansas does not. Just pads their vote. They had the money. They might as well spend it. But that's the end of the game in terms of the main play of it. It's kind of a shame because he was sitting on a card he could have played, a big Illinois card. Illinois is a key state. It was a hard decision. Do you go for the advertising where you might get something kind of cool, but you're not going to get an ability to hit something like Illinois and a lot else with only $4 left. He probably should have gone with the sure thing in retrospect, but had his 3 cards been more valuable, like maybe 2 Illinois cards and another thing that was $1, he could have really used them. He only used 2 of the cards as it was, because one was the presidential one, which you can't play. It wasn't advertising in Vermont. We got some other cards here that we're throwing in. These are actually going to get shuffled together. I can't really shuffle one-handed, and put under there. I'll be back in a moment. So a quick count of the number of states marked, and they are exactly equal. Debates were won by the Democrats. They're going to get 5 cards off the top of the deck. And then they, because it's equal, they get the first one, and we just start handing them out from there. I'll be back in a moment. So now we see these piles, and the Democrats have this significant advantage because of the debate over what the Republicans have. And at this point in the game, you're no longer really limited by the tally board. You use it to help decide your choices. So for example, that has to go to Rhode Island. He has no option. In it's going to go. I'll put it up here for now while I make my decisions. I've got these kind of big cards, but I feel like I should have the big states already. So let's look at some of these cards, and I'm not going to do this with the Democrats. I mean, I'm going to do it, but I'm not going to do it on camera. But let's look at some of these cards and try to decide what's going on in them. Mississippi, kind of a battleground and a valuable state. Indiana, not really. I think those are erased. Montana, not really. I'm going to put this in Mississippi. How about this one? New Hampshire. Ooh, I could sleaze that though. Virginia, important state. Might not get it if I'm not careful. Iowa, even another important state. Hawaii. Here it's kind of a choice. I don't have anything else for there. I'm going to put it in Virginia. How about here? Connecticut. Wow. I might be able to take Connecticut because that's a pretty big card. The other states are kind of leaning my way. I'm going to put it there in Connecticut. What about this? Pennsylvania. No way. Alabama. I'm not going to be able to steal Alabama from the Democrats. That's out. Ohio. I don't think I can win Ohio. I have another card for it, but I just don't think it's going to happen. That puts me to maybe playing defense over here in Wyoming. I might as well. Just in case the Democrats try to slip a card in there. Okay, what about my big cards? I'm a little uncomfortable about what I have in New York, but on the other hand, Wisconsin is so important, I'm putting it there. How about here? I mean, they don't have anything, and I think I've scared them away. North Carolina, battleground state, no question. Illinois, this is key. We're going in Illinois. Okay. Big votes in New York and California, but Florida's a bit of a prize. Ohio, I don't think I'm going to take. I'm going to gamble on that New York-California thing. And I hope I didn't screw up here from the Republican point of view. Now, knowing that gamble in a solitaire game makes things harder. I have to kind of look at my cards, but also make a die roll to decide, hey, can I take this? He's unlikely to defend it. I'll probably rate these at least 10 each, though. So if I can't make, over 30, 35 points in New York, I'm not going to play it. But if I can, I might. All right. Let's go over to the Democrats, and then I'll come back and show you how the counting goes. So here's the Democratic cards. You can see, following their strategy throughout the game, really. Almost all the attention going into the Midwest. Now, you can't win the game with just one region. I don't care which region. Midwest is very rich, but they're going to have to pick up stuff elsewhere. I'm not sure what their chances are. But so now, what do we do for counting? Well, of course, the results from the Eastern Coast come in first, and then we just sort these by state, count up the total votes, and mark them down in the tally. I'll come back with that as we get to, well, the counting is not really exciting. It can be kind of exciting as you're going through it in real time live, giving the Eastern returns when both people have counted them completely, giving them as they go down the list, so that they realize just how well they're doing ahead of time. Or it can be kind of cool to just wait until the end. I'll wait until the end and count them up. All right, I'll be back. So after counting the votes and tallying them involves pretty much sorting the decks during the thing. So we're all set up for play right afterwards. Let's take a look at what the returns were. Well, first of all, looking in the East, all the big states went Republican, no question there. A few small ones over to the Democrats, and the total there was 102 electoral votes for the Republicans, 38 for the Democrats. We knew that was going to be a complete blowout. Moving to the South, Democrats have a big lead here to begin with. Vote placement, well, they actually, on paper, look like they had about the same amount. And when we look... but we see they're kind of not competing in the same states. When we look down at what the values come out as, well, the Republicans slightly fell behind, 54 to 65. All right, but a huge lead in the East, no problem. Let's go to the Midwest. This is where the Democrats threw all their eggs. This is where they put all their points for this, really throughout the game. And what we look at is kind of interesting. We see there were a few states, Wisconsin, Missouri, Indiana, Illinois, that went Republican. Big states, important ones. That doesn't sound good for the Democrats. Now, when we look at the points, the Republicans got 62, the Democrats got 91. That's not as big a lead as the Republicans got in the East. And now if we go to the West, where again, the only really major states were clearly Republican, and the Democrats didn't challenge there, we see 87 votes, electoral votes for the Republicans, 41 for the Democrats. Comes out as a 305 to 235. Fairly significant victory in this game. I've seen it come close. I've never seen a complete blowout, at least in my solitaire games. If somebody who doesn't know what they're trying to do is fiddling around with it, it's quite possible that you could really mess up your campaign completely. Anyway, as we see, really, avoiding the biggest states doesn't really help you. Even, the Democrats were at this disadvantage, apparently, in, your New York or California. They shied away from them thinking, okay, I'm going to get those extra points elsewhere. Well, I mean, maybe, but it didn't align that way. What ended up happening instead was the Republicans could still be competitive in a lot of those smaller states. I'll come back with a review on this in a little bit.